How's it going, everybody? Tall Tesla guy here. We got some exciting things that happened today. At least waking up this morning, checking the news and the blogs and all that kind of stuff, and certainly the Tesla website. They made some changes. They made some tweaks. They even launched a brand new product line. I mean, just when you kind of thought that there wasn't much more that they could do, that other EV competitors were coming into the market and they were going to be, kind of edged out of their little niche there. Elon kind of throws his hat back in the ring as if to say, challenge accepted. So what they did today, this morning, they updated their website, they launched it out, they launched a completely new trim design for the Model Y. The Model Y standard range. Drops the mileage down a little bit, but it gives the single motor rear wheel drive car that people were looking for. It's a cheaper car, all that kind of stuff. And we'll jump into that in just a minute here, but I wanted to crack open a couple of things that Tesla's done to kind of build up to this point. We saw Tesla throw out some competitive marketing in the past when they had other EV competitors, specifically like Lucid. Now, Lucid is a company that produces an electric vehicle, or I should say will produce an electric vehicle. They yet to have anything in production as of yet. They have one coming out next year, maybe. I mean, who knows? But their Lucid Air standard edition car, not the Dreamline, not the $170,000 one, but the standard edition one, was coming in at $71,000 and some change. It was a little bit cheaper, but it was a similar kind of car, size, spec, sedan, sporty, that kind of thing. I mean, they even touted it a little bit faster, 0 to 60 than the Model S, even though Elon came back with a better number. They had a plus 500 mile range on the Lucid Air, so the Dreamliner anyway. And then Elon came out with a 520 mile, tri-motor Model S. So something like that is just, kind of shows how his mind thinks a little bit, to say, hey, there's a competitor, they're viable, they're not viable. If they are, let's go ahead and go after them. What can we do to compete against them? So that's kind of what they did there. Well, when the Lucid came out with their car, their standard edition, they dropped their price in at $71. Elon jumped in there, as you guys saw last year, in kind of a funny, playful kind of manner. He dropped the price of the Model S base edition down to $69,420. A little play in the numbers, but something fun that he was trying to do to get it in there. But anyway, it dropped it down about $2,000 cheaper than the Lucid. So he's done stuff like that in the past, but it goes to show that, maybe Tesla's a little more nimble. The fact that they launched and, sold and distributed 500,000 cars last year shows that the company is doing better. I mean, the stock price is going through the roof. Whether you're talking to analysts about that, whether that's good or bad, nonetheless, it shows that the company has more viable options. It didn't seem to affect the distribution of the car. Now, the Model S and X were not the, high sellers from 2020, though we didn't think that they would be. The Model Y and 3 outsold the Model S and X combined, 8x. So it wasn't even the same thing, though they're trying to bring the Model S back. And, a lot of these companies are producing vehicles that are competing with the S and the X, being a bigger SUV or a sportier, bigger sedan than, say the Model 3. So I think that's what they're kind of doing there, and that's what Tesla is doing to respond to that sort of stuff. What Elon just did recently, you guys have sure have heard the buzz, you've seen the videos, I've put a couple in there about it. The Ford produced a all-electric version of their Mustangs, the Mustang Mach E. They're planning on launching it late this year if everything goes as planned, but this is their first foray into a completely all-electric vehicle. Now, they grabbed onto their flagship cars, being the Mustang, and trying to grab onto their fan base a little bit to promote and push it. But they are directly competing with the Model Y. Now, Mustang is more of a sporty thing. They made it like a hatchback in the back of it, as you can see here, just to kind of sport it up a little bit. So they're equating it to the Model Y, which in balancing out range and maybe interior space, I guess it could be about the same. I know that people are comparing them and doing side-by-side tests between the Mach E and the Model Y, which kind of makes sense, I guess. But nonetheless, Ford has a standard range, rear-wheel drive Mach E coming out at the end of the year that's actually coming in at $42,895. Now, the $42,895 is actually quite a bit cheaper than the Model Y dual motor all-wheel drive edition that's out now by about $7,000. So from apples to apples comparison, if you were to say that the vehicles are on the same plane, then that's quite a jump. And then on top of that, the government credit for EV vehicles is going to be another $7,500. So it's going to make it almost $14,000 cheaper than the Model Y. So Tesla, in true form, I guess, came back As coming into 2021, you know, we're 7 days into the year, and he decided to, you know, put this promotion in. It actually came through last night, and it's something that he's actually promised for a couple of years now, being a standard range Model Y. When they launched it back in 2019, he offered a standard range, a long range, and a performance. Well, they only ever ended up coming out with the all-wheel drive long range and the all-wheel drive performance. They never actually launched the standard range. In fact, Elon even threw out a couple of, you know, kind of cryptic tweets last year, said that they were never going to do the standard range, or at least they weren't planning on it, because it was going to put the range under 250 miles, which was, you know, in his mind, not acceptable for an EV vehicle, wasn't acceptable for driving around town, doing all that kind of stuff. So he said, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to do that kind of thing. So if you take that away, then he also said, almost in the same breath, that, you know, maybe we will down the road. He said, we're not going to do it, can't get the range. Well, what they did now is they launched a standard range Tesla Model Y that gets about 240 miles of range from it, and it comes in at $41,000, $41,990, I think, cheaper than Ford Mustang Mach E, which is kind of a dig at Ford a little bit, I'm thinking. Just kind of his way of coming in there saying, hey, we're still competitive. You know, you come up with something cool, people end up liking it. Well, they're gonna have to decide on price. They're gonna have to decide on performance. They're gonna have to decide on design before they buy your Mustang. So that's kind of what he's kind of been playing around with. I mean, it's really exciting. It's, you know, it's exciting that they're changing the trim lines, they're doing different options, they're talking about all these new things they're doing for 21 with the Model Y, the Model 3, the Model S even. They're probably going to do some retooling on the Model X if they don't just eliminate it completely. So it just kind of shows the innovation of the company a little bit, where they're planning on taking it, maybe a little hint into Elon's mind to see where he wants it to go, that sort of thing. So, you know, being a better price, it's going to be right from the start, it's going to compete better with the Mustang Mach E. So that's another thing, this new, you know, rear wheel drive Tesla Model Y, that's the cheaper $41,000 base price, is actually going to deliver in 2 to 3 weeks, which is better than a, you know, all-wheel drive Model Y that's about 5 to 6 weeks. But you're going to get them really fast, so they'll definitely be there before the masses get the Mach E, if that's what they're trying to go for there. So, you know, in the end, it's going to come down to, you know, specifically the Model Y versus the Mach E. It's going to come down to, you know, performance, being that, you know, the 0 to 60 on the Model Y is about 5.3. This is for the rear wheel drive single motor, while the rear wheel drive Mach E is about 5.8. So it's a little bit slower there, but it's probably not something that you're going to notice too much. And then of course the range. The range anxiety is something that's there with an electric vehicle anyway. Tesla's always been kind of the forefront of the extended range stuff. They're talking about the Mach E being close to 300, but the rear wheel drive is nowhere near it. It's right about 230. Well, you know, coincidentally enough, or maybe not, the Model Y, the rear wheel drive vehicle, is actually 240 miles of range. So, you know, Tesla kind of came in there saying, hey, you know, not only is this a little bit cheaper as is without the rebates, it's also got, you know, 10 miles more range, a little bit more performance, and maybe a little bit more interior space. It's, you know, design, space, cargo, all that kind of stuff is going to come into play in the decisions. But, you know, it kind of goes to show that Tesla is ready to jump out there, ready to take on some of the competitors, ready to stay at the forefront of people's minds, you know, especially as they jump into the electric vehicle revolution. I mean, as we move forward, I guess we'll have to see how sales of this new, you know, standard range Model Y kind of fare versus the all-wheel drive Model Y of 2020, where they sold over, you know, 500,000 of the vehicles pushing through the end of the year. Coming into Q1, we'll see how that works for Tesla. Of course, they're not going to have to close down their plant like they did this past May, so that, you know, should positively impact sales. So time will tell what actually happens, but, you know, either way, it's exciting that all these competitors are coming in there. It's exciting that Tesla's trying to stay at the forefront there. You know, let me know what you think in the comments on the design of the Mach E, maybe the design of the Y, you know, whether or not you think a rear wheel drive standard range edition is going to have enough range for you, if you're going to end up liking it, that kind of stuff, or just your thoughts in general. I mean, if you've made it to this far, you know, think about liking the video, think about subscribing if you haven't already. We get those videos in there once a week, talk about everything from, you know, tech to lifestyle, and certainly Tesla. So I hope you guys are having a great day, great week so far, and thanks for watching.